Good morning. So, I want to start this show by making it very clear that the topic of this show, Should We Talk to Dead People, is by no means an assault or any way to disparage anyone who practices the craft, who is a witch, or practices Wicca. That is completely not what this show is about. This show is more about those who take advantage using the craft of the most vulnerable in our society, those who have lost people and want desperately to somehow find out if they're okay, find out where they are, know that they are okay. I actually, in prep for this show, spoke to a few witches, and I do know a few, and I very much respect their beliefs. And all of them said they do not sell the craft. If you watch the TV series Charmed, lovely series, I enjoy it so much I watch the reruns a lot on TNT. The one rule of magic and witchcraft is you don't use it for personal gain. And yet we have these psychic hotlines that charge $4.99 a minute and mediums who do reading parties and all kinds of things. And they are selling their gift for money, for personal gain. Now, look, I know that there is probably not one of you out there watching this show today, myself included, who has not lost someone. And we feel that we have unfinished business with that person. I lost my mother very suddenly, very unexpectedly. Some of you have lost people unexpectedly. And we want to somehow reconnect with those people. And this is what psychics and mediums do. Now, are there people out there who truly have a sixth sense? Probably. I believe that. But I don't think that all of these people out there that somehow find you at your most vulnerable are credible. And so this show is a warning, as well as me asking questions, because I don't know that much about it. I have kind of kept myself out of that loop. Several years ago, I had just lost my mom, and a friend of mine had lost her mother right about the same time. I think we lost our moms a year apart at Easter time. And we were both invited to a reading party. Believe it or not. We were supposed to pay like $40 to the medium, and we would all go and have some drinks and get a reading and contact someone who had passed. And she and I discussed it to decide, are we going to go? Are we not going to go? And she said something that stuck with me. She said, I don't think it's right to bug my mom. I think she should rest in peace. And I believe that too, to be honest with you. And then, of course, I talked to my resident pastor, Pastor Chris Adams, who is such a good friend of this show, the singing chaplain. You all know him, all of you who watch this show. And I asked him as a pastor, what do you tell your congregation, your parishioners, about trying to speak with dead people, people who have passed on? And he made it very clear, and I knew what he was going to say. He made it very clear that as a Christian, he would tell somebody that you don't mess with the occult. You don't dabble in the occult. As a Christian, you are supposed to have faith, which we spoke of last week. You are supposed to have faith in the afterlife, and that you will see your loved ones again after you too pass from this earth on to the next life, that if you believe in Jesus as your Savior, has been promised to you. You're not supposed to need proof that that afterlife exists. And this is where I have an issue. Many, many years ago, a cousin of mine married a witch. She was a member of a coven, and my family members lost their collective minds. Okay? Oh my God! They're having a baby. They're going to sacrifice the baby to Satan. They're thinking Rosemary's Baby, The Omen. No, that none of that happened. This woman was a lovely woman. She just believed something that they didn't agree with, but they didn't like it. And they were very critical. And yet now, when they want to contact someone who's passed, it's all of a sudden okay to call on someone who has passed to make sure they're okay. And I got to be a little incorrect here and say, look, if I die tomorrow or today and I make it to heaven, please don't be calling on me. Don't be down here calling me back to see if I'm okay. I mean, come on, most of you don't call me while I'm here alive to see if I'm okay. You don't care. Why all of a sudden, when I'm up in heaven, I'm busy, I'm reconnecting with people, I'm decorating my new house. Why would you bug me now? Why? Leave me alone. If you make it up here when you die, we can talk. But I think right there is part of the message. Unfinished business. I think that in our busy, busy lives, I'm guilty of it too. That we always think we have tomorrow or next week, or we'll see you in the summer, or we'll see you at Christmas, or we'll see you on New Year's. We always think we have time. Time to tell people what we want to tell them. Time to tell them how we feel about them, that we love them. And we don't. We don't tell people how we feel about them. We don't finish old business. We don't put grudges behind us. And so these people, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, there might be some real psychics out there who do good things and are legit and don't charge outrageous amounts of money. But they prey on this vulnerability that people have because they lose somebody and they have unfinished business. And I guess one of my messages of this show is to finish your business while these people are alive. And then, of course, you've got the hypocrisy, which I always hate. We don't do hypocrisy on this show. And as the singing chaplain, Pastor Chris says, you can't have one foot in one door and one foot in the other door. You're going to get a leg cramp. That's mine. You can't say on one hand that you are Christian and you believe completely in Jesus Christ as your Savior and your afterlife and the afterlife, and that when you die you go to heaven and are reunited with those who went before you. And then on the other hand say, well, but I'd really like to know for sure. Can I get some proof, please? And I'm willing to pay for that. See, that to me is a little strange. It's like the doubting Thomas. We all know doubting Thomas in the Bible, he's kind of a bad guy because he had to put his hands in the wounds of Jesus after his crucifixion and he arose from the dead. He had to feel the holes from the cross and the nails himself to believe that Jesus really arose. And what did Jesus say to him? Jesus said, wow, Thomas, you know what? You had to feel the wounds and put your hands in the holes. Blessed are those who believe without seeing, who didn't need proof. They are the faithful. And again, we talk about faith on this show a lot. And so my one question, and I really hope that viewers will respond to this show because I don't know all that much about what I'm talking about. But I do know that I have been raised when I was going to church. I have been raised always with the idea that you go to heaven when you die, and that when someone dies, we say rest in peace. Now, I say, well, how do you know? Well, we don't know, but this is what we believe. This is what was promised to us by Jesus when he sacrificed himself for us on the cross. This is how I was raised. And I see many people who were raised the same way and who say they are good Christians, who go to church, who talk the talk, but then turn around and say, well, I'm not so sure. I think I want to talk to the person who just died a few weeks ago. I want to make sure they're okay. I have a problem with that. Now, I also want this show to be a warning to some of you because, again, we see people who are vulnerable being preyed on in many different ways. The day my mother died, the hospital called me and said, you want to donate her eyes? I mean, it was literally an hour after I got home from the hospital, after losing my mother in the most unexpected and ridiculous way. I mean, she was killed at that hospital, and now they're calling me, asking me to donate her eyes. And I said, you know what? Did she have organ donor on her license? No. You need to go to hell. Bam. I hung up the phone on her. I said, no, you don't touch my mother. The place where she prepaid her funeral, after we did the funeral, a week later, they're calling me, would you and your husband like to prepay a funeral? Look how easy your mom made it for you. They prey on people who are vulnerable. Look how many people, when there is an obituary in the paper with the address of the deceased and the date of the funeral, and that day, that house gets robbed because burglars are looking at the obits. During my mother's funeral, we had some friends who we said, don't come to the funeral, stay in our home and keep an eye on our home. And sadly, that was because we had some interesting members of my mother's new family, my step siblings, that might have actually broken into our house. So we had to take care of that. Psychics and mediums also prey on vulnerable people. People who do have questions, even though, and look, every Christian questions at some point. But make sure you get it, that these people have their own agenda. If they are charging you a lot of money, think, and remember, well, they told me something they couldn't possibly know. If you're on Facebook and you're on Snapchat and you're on Twitter and you're on Instagram, believe me, they can find out. Even more now than they could before. I can go onto any one of your Facebook pages right now, and I can find out a lot about you, and then call you and say, oh, I had a vision. Something's going to happen. Believe me, you have to be careful. I have a story for you. It's a true story. My mother told it to me. When she and her cousins were very young, teenagers, there used to be fortune tellers on the boardwalk. They might still be there in Wildwood, New Jersey. And she and my cousins went. This was back in like the 50s. And for a lark, they had their fortunes told. And so her cousin went in and had her fortune told. She was like 18, 19 years old. And the fortune teller said to her, you will have 4 children and raise 3. Wow. Now that's creepy. And what this fortune teller said, kind of stuck with her. And she got married and she had a child. And then she had a second child. And she's like, okay, I have 2 children. The fortune teller was wrong. And then she got pregnant when she was a little older. She's like, well, okay, so I'm going to have 3 children. Then she found out she was pregnant with twins. So there you go, 4 children. And in the back of her mind, what that fortune teller told her 25 years ago was in her head. Oh my God, is one of my children going to die? Now, again, because she was a person of great faith, Christian faith, she let it go. And her 4 children have all grown up. They are adults. They are all alive and well. She did see them raised. So the fortune teller was wrong. And look, back then in the 50s, everybody had 3 or 4 kids. So the fortune teller guessed. Now, why she threw in the you're only going to raise 3, who knows? Probably to scare her a little bit. But again, this is the thing. How much power are you going to give to someone who's charging you $4.99 a minute or $100 per reading? How much are you going to let them control your life? And I'd like to ask people who actually do readings or have had readings done, do they ever tell you what you don't want to hear? Have you ever said, I want to know if Uncle Johnny is in heaven, and the medium says, oh, got bad news. Uncle Johnny says he's burning in hell. He's on fire every day. He's being beaten and tortured. It's miserable. He didn't make it. He's in hell. Ever had someone tell you that? Even when you know that Uncle Johnny was a son of a bitch and should be burning in hell? And they tell you, oh no, Uncle Johnny is in a beautiful meadow. He's singing and dancing every night and playing poker, and he's always winning, and he's just having a great time up in heaven. I would like to know if any of you ever were told that your loved one is burning in hell. Or are you just told what you want to hear? That they're fine, that they're happy, that they miss you, but that they will see you again one day. Oh, and by the way, that'll be $100, please. How many of you would actually change your daily routine because of what a psychic or a medium tells you? If your medium says, ooh, next week, bad week, something really horrific is going to happen to you or one of your family members, I can't see which one it is, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep your kids home from school, call off work, not get out of bed for a week? What if it's a whole month? January is going to be a bad month. I wouldn't leave the house. Will you do that? How much power would you give? And if you're willing to ignore, ooh, tomorrow's going to be a bad day, and you just go about your routine, then do you really believe that they're talking to Uncle Johnny in hell or in heaven or wherever? And if you really don't believe what my witch friends tell me, my Wicca friends tell me, if you don't really believe it, then you're not really getting the full benefit of the reading anyway. If you walk in knowing or thinking you know that your loved one is in heaven, then you're going to be told and you're going to hear what you want to hear. The only thing is, you're going to be charged for it. You're going to have to pay for it. And that's what I have a problem with, because like I have told you before, my witch friends, my Wicca friends, they tell me they don't charge anybody to read their cards or to do, they don't get personal gain from sharing their gift. They share it willingly, just like Christians are supposed to testify and share Christianity freely. Just like on this show, we get angry with churches who care more about money than preaching the word of God to the faithful. That Jesus never charged for people to hear his word. He never did his miracles. He never healed a sick person and then asked for money. And that's where I want you all to think, please. I just don't want anyone I care about or any of my viewers, I care about you all, to be taken in by a scam artist. You're all going to do what you want to do anyway, and I would love to be educated. I learn so much from you guys who do things that I don't do. I would never pay somebody to contact my mother. Every now and then I'll look up to the sky, especially when I'm at the beautiful beach and the water's there, and my mom loved the beach and the water. And I look up to the sky and I'll see a rainbow and I'm like, hey, Mom, I miss you. I love you. I wish we could have had more time together. I wish I could ask you questions, but I can't. That's as far as it goes, because the rainbow doesn't send me a bill or charge my credit card. Not yet, anyway. So I really want you all to think about faith, about loss, and last but not least, about making every day count. Every day that you actually have the chance to physically see or talk to somebody that you love. Think about that tomorrow they could be gone. We see that in what happened with that train derailment in Washington. People just driving to work, getting on a train to go to work. 3 of them are never going home. They're dead. Many are injured. Life can change in a second, in an instant. So don't let a day go by where the people you really want to know how you feel about them, let them know. And that way, if there are these scam artists out there trying to contact the dead, you can say there's no reason. I said everything I needed to say while they were alive. Political Paula is out.